Hello, welcome once again to Living and Active. Welcome once again to the Living and Active live playlist. I'm hoping this is not going to be as long of a video as some of the other ones have been on this playlist. I don't mean to be disrespectful of anyone's time, um, but it's in the spirit of not wanting to be disrespectful of anyone's time that this video comes to you. I had an interesting visit and conversation with one of my friends here in town that comes to visit me every once in a while. Been hanging out with him off and on for the last few years. That I've been in a wheelchair, and he's been incredibly helpful to me. Like when I had to move um, unexpectedly, suddenly, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, he helped me a great deal to get that done. And he's seen me go through uh, a lot of good ideas. And these are the ideas like living an active life, where I have told people about them and done the community interest surveys and all of the groundwork that people tell you you're supposed to do. Um, and I hear that these are really good ideas, and how the fact that I want to see about doing them, or at least getting them started, is commendable and everything. And then when it comes time to actually see what's what, um, the feedback is absolutely non-existent. So this time I did it different with the Living and Active Life. I did it different. I said, okay, fine. I'm going to stop waiting for people to give me permission. I'm going to stop waiting for people to say yes. This is um, what we also want and need for ourselves, and how can we help you get it started? And I said, okay, fine. I'm just going to schedule. I'm going to start telling people what it's called, what its intention is, and I'm just going to start scheduling places for it to meet. The first one uh, already happened on the 15th of this month, and nobody showed up. It's fine. Um, there was nothing other than some flyers generated by the staff at the first venue that I was passing around, kind of sort of via email to select people. There was zero market saturation whatsoever, zero reach, no marketing, whatever. And so I kind of expected that. Tomorrow is the first Living and Active gathering in Boscobel at that venue, and it has now been a matter of public display on the event calendar for the local contemporary Christian music radio network. And so the advertisement is there. I know they have a spot that regularly airs from the local repeater station or whatever it is that shares that actually reads off the events for the listening area, to include Boscoville, this one coming up tomorrow. So that access has been for the last week. Anyway, back to my friend. This is the same one that told me that, shared the story about his son being upset that he wasn't able to hunt any deer in the living room. And he reminded me, I was telling him of some of the things that I was going through, trying to, in terms of getting locations, especially here in the city that I live in, and him being him living here for 3 decades. He sort of gave me a rundown on, just kind of what you can expect for this area. And I said, I know. I've been trying for the last 4 years. um, but the same person that told me that, I wasn't going to find any deer to hunt in my living room um, also suggested that um, I'm trying too big of things. It's not the words he used, but it's kind of his intent. And I think he's under the presumption that I throw, because I mean this is not the first time I've tried to do anything to benefit this community, whatever, and I do throw a lot into these efforts, but I don't throw everything into them. I'm not foolish with my energy or time investment or resources or whatever. I'm generous with all of them, but I'm not foolhardy with them. And I tried to explain to him what I mean when I tell people now that I'm hearing over and over again that's such a great idea, and I know it's code for good luck. I'm not going to get my hands any further dirtied with it. Um, I tried to explain to him, like, look, there's a reason I tell people, yeah, it's only a good idea if it works. And I'm trying to start this because I need it for myself, and it doesn't exist here. So if it continues after this effort to not exist in this area, then it's not going to be my fault. There's only so much I can do. I can't make people show up that have heard. I can't, you know, just throw all kinds of money and everything else into it, and then all of a sudden it becomes this huge cultural phenomenon. People either want this truly or they don't. People either want to have some way of breaking free of their isolation, or they want a way of not being alone and isolated that they don't have to invest in. People either care about shut-ins and the disabled who can't get out for social interactions enough to hear about something like this and bring them out to it, or they don't. And those people will probably find me, given enough time, those people will probably find me and say, well, I can't get them out to these meetings, so you need to go around to all of these different places and go meet them individually, which is where I draw the line. That's not going to happen, at least in terms of someone just showing up to a meeting and being like, well, I have this person here, but I can't get them here and all this other stuff. And if you really want to help, then all of a sudden, instead of meeting 10 different people in one place and starting maybe 2 friendships that I can keep outside of business hours, then all of a sudden I've become obligated to be one person driving around to 10 different places, not really establishing any solid friendships. I'm just serving as the person who does the moral conscious aspect of, well, I tried. I got this guy to come and be a friend to this person. They didn't hit it off, or he can't show up regularly, so he's not really all that faithful or dependable anyway. So, but I tried. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to let that happen. And this is kind of a thing that I've done my entire life. I will listen to the reasons why people say they think they don't have something that's holding them back. And if I can, I would do whatever I can to eliminate those excuses. Sorry. I'll eliminate those reasonings to see if they're just excuses. And once I do, and that person still would rather mope about the lack and not do anything to take advantage of the fact that the hindrances are no longer there, then it becomes that person's problem why they're still suffering loss. I'm going to try to do this for a few months, telling people, making myself available, letting the venues be open, keeping them on the schedule, being faithful to show up, all of those things. Letting people decide for themselves whether or not they will tell other people that this is happening in this area. And if nothing happens, I will simply let the venue schedules elapse. Granted, basketball scheduled for 6 months, Lancaster scheduled for a year out. I think if it becomes evident that people are just not going to take part in it, then it'll be shut down long before then, in both cases. I do believe that. Hang on. Now you know what time it is. AM, by the way, on a Monday morning. But, yeah, so I'm just going to go with the assumption that a Fenimore presence isn't going to happen here. I was told by my friend who told me that I wasn't going to be able to find any deer in my living room if I wanted to hunt and I wanted some venison, metaphorically speaking, that he said, I told him about the city offering me the use of the gym inside the memorial building, and I said that I wasn't going to do that because of the lack of accessible restrooms. And I know he means well, but this is also why I need to make disabled friends, because it's only going to be another disabled person operating as my friend that's going to understand these things and not say dumb things back to me. I think he kind of knew it was a little bit whatever, but I don't know. Anyway, what he said, what I had told the city was that I can't bring a bunch of disabled people here into a building that has no accessible bathrooms, with the closest accessible bathroom being across the busiest street in the city that is notoriously dangerous, to go use a gas station accessible bathroom and then try to come back across that same road and rejoin whatever the activity is. I'm not going to do it. And he proceeded to tell me from the city's perspective, and I believe it's true, I'm pretty sure this is exactly what they're thinking. You've been here 4 years, you don't make use of the building, and I told them that I don't make use of the building because of the lack of bathroom. And yet, you're the one making all the noise about the lack of accessible bathroom. And I thought to myself, was like, what noise? I did one city council meeting because they told me I had to get it officially on the books. So I did. The streets and public works guy came to me and invited me to check out the improvements that he had made to it to see if they were sufficient, and they weren't. So that was the second time that I said anything about it. And the third time was a month or so later when I went back to see if they had made any progress. But I was told by my friend, so I'm guessing he's heard something about it, probably with some annoyance, that I'm a guy in a wheelchair that doesn't use the building, but I'm the only one making any kind of noise about the lack of accessible bathroom. And meanwhile, there are other people in town that use wheelchairs that don't complain about the lack of accessible bathrooms in the memorial building. And there are people who use memorial buildings that are in wheelchairs. Uh, these for wheelchair basketball, and they show up pretty regularly, and they haven't said anything about the accessible bathrooms. I didn't bother going into the fact that most of them probably have outdoor plumbing. They are probably catheterized. They probably have ostomy bags, all these other things. I didn't want to get that far into it with him. Uh, I saw kind of where his mind is at, whatever, what he's been thinking. He's been very busy. And these aren't necessarily his to worry about. He's an able-bodied person, thinking like an able-bodied person thinks. But he's also been a public figure for the last 30 years, and so he's used to the mentality of the city in which we live. So it was more of a revelation of the mentality of this city and not a reflection of his true heart. He was just letting me know he understands why I'm running into this resistance that I am in this town, which is awesome. I suspected these things. Now I'm pretty sure that he's spot on. But he's worried, I think, that I'm going to burn myself out, as already mentioned, and I'm not going to. So here's my take on this whole living an active life thing. This is about creating an opportunity. This is about holding out an invitation for people who, like me, have seen that there's nothing like this in this area, and who have told themselves that they would absolutely jump at the chance to take part in something like this for the sake of not being alone, lonely, or whatever anymore. To have more reasons to come out into the community, to meet and learn from other disabled people, to make friendships, to possibly find romantic relationships, or even get more into the realm of finding caregivers. If someone's interested in becoming a caregiver, this would be an excellent opportunity to gain an informal and free setting in which to learn from the types of disabilities that they might be called upon to assist with. With the tech school campus, it was an opportunity to supplement the programs, the health sciences programs, for absolutely zero charge on their own turf, on their own timeline, according to their own setup. And it's looking all for everything like it's not going to happen, like it's not going to be allowed. So that's what I'm doing. I'm genuinely extending the opportunity, the invitation, and I'm saying, hey, look, if you've been waiting for this thing to exist so that you can take part in it, here it is. But I'm not going to run myself ragged or completely empty myself out on the altar of community service to try to force this thing to take wings. People are either going to see this and recognize it for what it is and say, yes, I want to be a part of that and help it grow with their involvement and participation, or they won't. I go back to being alone. The invitation is rescinded, but I will have created a time frame within which all of those excuses were done away with. This is the same way that God presents to us his testimony of himself. He knows everything we're going to say in response to his love, to his testimony of himself, to his testimony of ourselves with regard to him, and everything that he's done to bridge the gap between the two. And he said, you know what? I've taken away all of the excuses. I know you can't be good enough, so I sent my son to be good enough on your behalf. I know that you trying to pay your own sin penalty isn't going to be good enough to restore you to my side. So my son Jesus gave himself, even though he was perfectly innocent, to pay that price for you. You've been purchased, you're good. I know that these things are hard for you to do because your spirit is willing, but your flesh is weak. So you have forgiveness through what my son did, so that you can stay in relationship with me. You don't have to worry about losing your salvation. I've given you the history of all mankind, and I've shown you at each and every single turn where I've been faithful to what I've said, where I've been just in letting people experience the consequences of their own free will, their own rejection, their own rebellion, their own hard-heartedness and evil. And in that same text, you also have time and time again multiple examples of my grace and my mercy, even when the people in question deserved so much worse than what they actually got. You've got the prophetic testimony of what is about to come. He giving you an early warning that all these things are about to come to end, and those who do not belong to me, those who have rejected me up to that point, are going to have a very, very hard time with things, and it will be because they are in judgment for rejecting every single thing that I've done to restore them, to save them. God has done everything that's possible and necessary so that He could extend a free invitation, a simple offer that can either be accepted or declined based on the free will of the people the invitation is meant for. I, of course, cannot claim to offer anything as good and as restorative as what the Father can. But what I can do is emulate the way He operates in the finite and imperfect ways that I can. God is love. He operates this way. He's chosen to operate this way in His love, in accordance to faithfulness to His word, His character, and His promises. And He Himself holds out everything as an invitation, as an offer for people to either accept or decline. I can't and won't ascribe more importance than that to myself and my own little efforts. So learning from the example of the perfect and all-powerful Father God, me being a finite and unmistakably diminished human being with limited resources, limited energy, limited everything, I can do no different. Living an active life is an invitation. It's an opportunity. The real estate has been set aside. The time frame has been set aside. The parameters and the protections to allow people to come together, meet, make, and learn from meet and make friends, and learn from the friends they make. It's all been laid out. It's there. It's in place. But it does nobody any good if nobody shows up. I can and will continue to keep being faithful for as long as it's reasonable and practical to show up to those sites according to the schedule, so that these things can still have the possibility of happening. And I don't mind showing up to empty meeting rooms, because as more and more people hear about this and don't show up, that's more and more invitations being declined. It's not my job to get inside someone's psyche and try to convince them to accept the invitation. Part of this journey is about mustering up the accountability and the courage to put your faith in something that could do you a little bit of good, and figuring out for yourself if it's worth whatever it is you think you're investing or risking in simply going to a pre-scheduled place during a certain time in a controlled environment to meet new people and make new friends. That's all it is. It would be nice to meet a bunch of disabled people or people that care for disabled people, care about disabled people, and just be people together. But if it doesn't happen, that's not going to destroy my sense of accomplishment or my sense of well-being or whatever. I'm not going to let myself get burnt out over it. I'll keep going and keep being faithful, keep the doors open. And if I end up shutting it down because there's absolutely zero traction, then I shut it down. But if I end up shutting it down because there's zero traction, I will stand on the word I've already given, which is, if I try this and it still remains true that this doesn't exist in this area, it's not going to be my fault. Well, are you saying that's going to be the fault of the people that didn't show up? Yes. I'm going to say for Living and Active Live what way too many people are afraid to say for the WNBA. WNBA was created because everybody said it was a good idea. Let's have a professional caliber basketball league for women. Women did not show up to the games. They didn't support the WNBA the way men support the NBA. And so the structure, the benefit to women that could have been, simply wasn't. And then women started blaming men for the failure of the WNBA. It makes no sense. Similarly, if disabled people are putting themselves out there to create opportunities to benefit other disabled people and give them social interactions on the same level of able-bodied people that can just go wherever they want to, whenever they want to, without anyone giving them weird looks, without anyone making them feel like they're an encumbrance upon the normal flow of how things happen within a space, and the disabled people don't show up for it, then yes, it is on the shoulders of the disabled people who couldn't be bothered to show up for it that the effort fails. So, I don't want this to fail. I want this to benefit many, many people. I want this to be in the hands of as many people out there away from my specific area as possible, so that maybe you can come into communities that don't have the same kind of attitudes as the people around here, so that it can do somebody some good somewhere. If you don't take this idea and you don't run with it, you don't implement it, even under a different name, I don't care, then you can't complain about why this good idea doesn't exist in your area. You truly can't. Am I being harsh? No. I'm telling the truth. Because that is what we need. We need the truth. We as a community We need the truth of what does or does not constitute a disability, what disability does or does not mean, what accessibility does and does not fix for us, what ADA does and does not fix for us, and the responsibility and accountability we have to each other within this community across all physical disabilities for fixing the lapses, the gaps, and the lacks that we experience on a daily basis when we have an opportunity to do so. So, with that, I've got some fresh biscuits sitting on my stovetop, and I need to make coffee to go with them. I still got some housework to do today so that tomorrow I have the energy to go to Boscobel for the first Living and Active Live gathering at that site. We'll see what happens. So, if you are of a mind to do something like this, with a right spirit, to be honoring to God and pleasing to God, in service to Him and to the people He made, then I remind you of Hebrews 11:6. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, because those who come to God must believe that He is, and that He rewards those who seek Him. So until next time, if there is a next time, and there might not be, God be with you.